Look at this island. A lost Eden, untouched by civilization. But what if I told you that this paradise is a tomb? A silent witness to one of the most chilling, true stories of human madness. This is Anatahan, and its secret began in 1944 when the roar of war reached its shores. This isn't a simple survival tale. This is a psychological thriller, a terrifying descent into primal urges, where 32 men, scarred by battle, and a single woman were forced to play a deadly game. Her name was Kazuko Higa, a 24-year-old woman who believed she was safe from the war, working with her husband on a small coconut plantation. But safety is an illusion. One day, her husband and his boss left on a small boat for a supply run. They never returned. Kazuko was left with a few remaining workers, a quiet, forgotten group. They thought the worst was over. They were wrong. The war had just begun for them. The first sign came from the sea itself, a broken ship and men clinging to its wreckage. The men were the survivors of a Japanese naval vessel sunk by an American torpedo. 31 of them, from young sailors to hardened veterans, washed ashore, half dead. They were a force of pure testosterone, driven by adrenaline and the trauma of battle. They found Kazuko, and the dynamic of the island changed forever. The peaceful civilian workers now felt a chilling unease. They were no longer the rulers of their own domain. They were hosts to a pack of hungry wolves. For the first year, an uneasy truce held. They worked together, but whispers began. The men noticed that Kazuko was treated with respect by the senior civilian leader, but not with the affection of a husband. The truth was far more complex and dangerous. Kazuko was not the man's wife. In fact, she was his secret lover. This secret, this forbidden affair, would become the match that lit the fuse. The truth was discovered. The first death followed shortly after. An accidental fall from the cliff. It was a murder, and it wasn't the last. The single pistol found on the island became the ultimate prize. It represented power, and with it, the chance to claim Kazuko. The men, stripped of all rules and sanity, began to kill each other. A cold-blooded war broke out. A man was strangled in his sleep. Another was shot by a jealous rival. Every death was a step deeper into the abyss. Kazuko, trapped in the middle, had to play a brutal game. She chose her lovers strategically, picking the most powerful men to serve as her temporary bodyguards. But this only accelerated the violence, turning the island into a hunting ground. American forces dropped leaflets and broadcasted messages from planes, trying to tell them the war was over. The Japanese government had signed the unconditional surrender, and Emperor Hirohito had made his historic radio address. But on Anatahan, the soldiers were suspicious. They saw the leaflets as a trick, a cruel lie from the enemy to lure them into the open. The broadcasts were dismissed as propaganda. Their military code, the Bushido, demanded they fight to the death, and surrender was seen as a dishonorable act. They believed their homeland would never give up. The war was over, but the silence that replaced the thunder of bombs was not one of peace, but of profound uncertainty. For months, the docks of Japan became the stage for a great, sorrowful pilgrimage. Boats, slow and heavy with their human cargo, returned from distant, forgotten islands and battlefields. On the shores, countless faces waited, a sea of worried mothers, aging fathers and silent wives, each clutching a photograph of a loved one. When a ship finally docked, a collective gasp would ripple through the crowd. A handful of men, thin and ghost-like, would emerge, their uniforms tattered and their eyes hollow. They were the lucky ones. Their names were shouted out, and amidst tears of joy and relief, there would be an embrace, a long, desperate hug that was both a celebration of life and a mourning for the years lost. These were the moments of bittersweet reunions, where happiness was mixed with the unspoken pain of what they had endured. But for every man who returned, there were countless others who didn't. As the last men disembarked, the silent majority of the crowd remained. Their hopeful smiles faded into weary lines of grief. The waiting continued for days, then weeks, then years. The dock became a monument to absence, a place where prayers were whispered into the wind and tears fell for sons and husbands who would never again walk onto this earth. The true cost of the war was not just in the ruins of the cities, but in the broken hearts of those left behind, forever waiting for a homecoming that would never come. While the docks of Japan buzzed with the sad reunions of weary soldiers and their waiting families, an entirely different kind of war was being fought far away. On the remote island of Anatahan, 30 Japanese men and 1 woman, unaware that their nation had surrendered, continued to live in a world frozen in time. The war that had ravaged the globe had ended, but their personal war against a phantom enemy in the harsh jungle went on. They were ghosts of a bygone era, their beliefs as unshakable as the rock beneath their feet. Every leaflet dropped from the sky, every message broadcast over the airwaves was dismissed as a cunning trick. The thought of their emperor surrendering was a betrayal too great to comprehend. They had been taught to fight until death, and so they would. Their existence was a testament to a code of honor that had been tragically outdated. They starved, they fought amongst themselves, and they slowly lost their humanity, their silent suffering a cruel contrast to the tearful but hopeful homecomings happening thousands of miles away. After years of bloodshed, a chilling consensus emerged among the surviving men. The source of all their suffering was not the island, not the war, but Kazuko. A group secretly plotted to kill her, but one man, a former lover, betrayed them. He whispered the plan to her, and Kazuko fled into the jungle, utterly alone, with nothing but the clothes on her back. She spent weeks hiding in the trees, a ghost in the very land that had turned on her. It was in this state of pure terror that a passing American ship spotted her, a pale figure waving from a distant shore. Her rescue was the final chapter of a story that would become a legend. When the remaining men were finally convinced the war had ended and were brought home, they were welcomed as heroes. Their story was simple. The woman caused it all. They painted her as a manipulative siren, a queen of Anatahan, who had orchestrated their descent into madness. And the world believed them. But was she? Or was she just a terrifyingly smart survivor who understood the darkness in men's hearts and used it against them? We'll never truly silent now. But its story asks us to confront a terrifying question. How thin is the line between civilization and savagery? And what would you become if that line disappeared? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you're not afraid of the dark corners of history, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.